And welcome back to another episode of Conversations of Agile Change. This week, I am joined by the rather fabulous Deborah Fleischer. And by way of explaining the context to this episode, we were having a chat the other day, and she made the incredibly bold assertion that Agile Change is smoother, better value, and better quality. And I thought, wait, this is a conversation that I want to record. I think this is sounding like a podcast. So, Deborah, welcome to Conversations of Agile Change.
Thank you, Jen. I'm delighted to be here and I am honoured as well to be in such wonderful quality company.
Okay, let's start. Other than an alumni of the Agile Change Manager Certificate Program, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you. It's a great question. Always love to be asked about ourselves, don't we? So I am I guess, a person who grew up in Melbourne, and my background is really in project and change management, working across the education and government and financial services spaces. So I've done a lot of complex and enterprise-wide change in various capacities. So as well as a project manager, a change manager as well. And yeah, I really love working to support people to be their best and organisations to work sort of together to create innovation and to create spaces where people can actually be safe and explore and be curious and find unique ways to do things to create amazing results.
That sounds fabulous. That can be such a powerful combination, that background of project management and change management, and kind of having worked in the two spaces, I think just really adds something really special to practitioners, with the way you work. So that's fabulous. Now let's get straight to it. Agile change is smoother, better value, better quality. Tell me what you mean by that.
So, in my experience, which is around over 10 years in these complex enterprise-wide changes and transitioning to become an agile change manager myself, I've really noticed that to get change to land, you really need to engage the people who it's going to affect and find out from them, what is this change? What does it mean to you? And how can we help you to adopt it? And when I've used agile approaches, agile mindsets, and agile methodologies, both within sort of agile and traditional waterfall environments, I've really found that engagement and the use of the sort of the simple, brain-friendly, visual communications, storytelling, and giving people license to really participate in the design of the change makes just an enormous difference to the outcomes that people are able to support in terms of behaviour change to make project outcomes come to life.
I can relate to that. And what I'm kind of struck by, I feel like sometimes there's two pathways to working in agile change. It's one, we've got the opportunity to do it. So the experiences that you've just talked about and do the continuous engagement and visual and transparent. And life is just sweeter and easier. Or we're in a really frustrating position where we can't use that approach and things are challenged. Does that resonate with your experience? Is that where you've been in both sides of you can't use it and you can use it?
So I think I like my approach because I have a really strong growth mindset sort of approach to life. I always look at challenging environments and think, what is it that is within my control or agency to make a difference to? So when I've been in environments where, let's say, there's sort of a low change maturity and people are still in that space of like, okay, either what is change management or what's the value of change management? We just need to, get on with these technological changes and land them, and that's all that matters. I have taken that as sort of as a challenge to learn who is this audience that I'm speaking to, and what is it that I need to understand about them to communicate effectively. Because like I have no doubt that agile change and agile change methods, as in human-centered design methods,
Yeah.
can benefit any workplace. And it's actually the communication and sort of the integration of those into the way those people think and the way those people work that allows that to come to life. So
Mm.
yeah, sometimes it's
Yeah.
harder than others because,
Yes.
people are less open to making any changes. That's the
Mm.
hardest thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. I'm mindful you've got this really rich breadth of experience across industries. So, I always like to say I'm industry agnostic, and I see that in your background as well. So, superannuation, higher education, banking, government. Do you see any patterns with respect to that across sectors?
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great question, Jen, because as we, you know, move at speed towards a continuously changing environment, I think the pattern that I see most is that traditional change management and sort of methodology and tools and models, all of that it's not time to throw it away, but it's time to use the structure of that, but translate it into how do we help this environment adopt to continuous change and not think that it's like project by project anymore. It's a
Mm,
massive trend, and it's something that I'm really passionate about helping organisations to
mm.
support their people to adopt change and to adapt to change and have a mindset and develop those skills within the organisation.
Yeah. Um, if we dig into those three criteria,
Hmm.
when you talk about smoother, I think about experience. So employee experience, vendor experience, executive, the leadership experience in the organization. Um, how does that impact delivery across those groups? Or is that where you're seeing smoother? Or have I jumped to an assumption there? Or how do
Um,
you see smoother playing out?
Yeah, so I think smoother. The reason I made this bold statement was because I think that it applies across the board.
Mhm.
Um, Smoother, I've seen agile change approach help communication with leaders, um, help leaders have sort of a data informed um, landscape, laying out what are the impacts and how are people feeling about the change in a way that it can be done on one page, um, and they can absorb that information much more quickly and simply to be informed and to work out how they are going to help their people adopt to change. Um, and then in terms of teams, so let's say delivery teams, I've seen in my work, I've actually, gone into, let's say, a large and complex design of a new operating model, for example. So we've got a lot of different experts in the project team who are wanting to do their own thing. I'm expert in this, I'm expert in this. And as the change manager, I've actually come in and said, look, we need to get on the same page and have a shared vision of what problem we have and what problem we're trying to solve together in order to work together to land this in a way that's going to work smoothly for us and for the organisation. And I just got fantastic feedback throughout that project. We revisited that as a group, we need to sit down together and think about this together and talk with each other about what our plans are so that we're not overstepping on each other and doubling up. But also, we're designing something that complements itself and works
Mm.
smoothly. So that
So,
impacted, yeah, that delivery team a lot.
yeah, great example. Because that's, for me, that's really a story of alignment, right? The continuous engagement that we do, not just with the stakeholders, but within our project
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Um, I'm curious around what do you do early that prevents friction later? So, what is the antecedents to, sorry, the precedents to a smooth experience?
Yeah. So I think just feeding off that example, that using sort of agile methods, which are about like collaboration, knowing who is in the team and what their strengths are, and then creating the relationships to be safe enough to talk to each other and ask each other, you know, for help if you need it,
Mhm.
but also how you can help one another. And so, in my approach, I always attempt to get teams to sit down together and get to know each other a little bit at the start, because, when I am struggling with something that's really time sensitive and is, let's say, high profile, I want to know who I've got in the team so that I can talk to them, and I want to know that they've got my back, and I need them to know that I've got their back. And so it's setting up, for example, inside the team for success at the start
Mm.
before you dive into, deliverables and schedules and that sort of thing.
Yeah, got it. What role does visibility play? So I'm thinking about dashboards, readiness, heat maps, shared
Yeah.
tracking within the team. How does that play out in your world?
So I would say that one of the things that I love the most and has totally transformed my communication is sort of the agile change tools that you've mentioned, where I would never in my wildest nightmares go with a spreadsheet, into a meeting to try to explain where we are or what we need to do. Of course, that sort of level of um, dotting your I's and your T's in the background should go on. But I found like across the board with leaders, with delivery teams, and with impacted teams, having really simple, clear um, communications that are engaging and sort of express things visually is so much more helpful to conversations and getting people to engage, getting people to understand, getting people to give feedback and input into a project. Just having those visual tools is critical, and that they express data that my work has brought out that's relevant to the environment is critical and incredibly involved in my bold statement about the smoothness and the sort of improved outcomes.
Well, I couldn't agree more with that. I think the use of visual tools
Yeah.
has completely transformed my practice as a
Hmm.
change practitioner. Like night and day, such a difference with it. I am mindful though, the flip side of the fabulous change practitioner using all the great tools and engaging early and creating the psychological safety is, of course, the impact of the leader.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what your experience has been or how you see the leader's accountability for making a change process smooth. Where does that
Mhm.
fit in? Are there behaviors that support it or get in the way? What's your
Mhm.
thinking about that?
So I think that, you've sort of hit the nail here on the head, Jen, which is that one of the biggest like trip ups for success in change programs is lack of leadership, or lack of effective change friendly leadership. And so as a change manager, I always have to be mindful that I am not in the spotlight. I am there to support the leader and to coach them, to help them understand how to, like, basically how people go through change, what freaks people out about change, and what freaks different people out about change, because people go through change differently, and then to help them think through how they're going to lead people to increase the change capability, increase the resilience, because these days in this, I guess the world of work that we live in, that's not going to slow down. What's happening is like that there is rapid, continuous change, and you barely land one change project, and people haven't quite settled with that when they have another change to deal with. And so personally, as a change professional, it's digging deep and understanding that there are behavioral and deeply human elements to change that is very complementary to all of the AI and analysis that we can do today. But it's really helping leaders to understand behavioral change and those sort of deeply human primal fears that are triggered with this continuous change, so that they can help people to become like adapt professionals, professional at being adaptive.
Right. Well, I think we can tick smoother. Let's have a look at better value. Now, often better value is used as a euphemism for cheap, right? You're looking for the cheaper thing. Um, is that the case? Are you saying that agile change we can cut corners, or how does that play out for you? What's value?
Yeah. So what is value? It's a great question. And in terms of cheap, always looking for cheaper. I think if we're honest, you know, you open the kimono of the boardroom and that's what they're looking for. They need to make things cheaper. And that's why I brought this up, because in order for change to be relevant, we have to speak to um, the leaders of organizations who need to address, financial bottom line concerns. And so the thing that I absolutely love and am so passionate about with Agile Change is that in the past you've had these sort of programs of change that the change manager designs for others, based on a whole series of methods and tools that have to go in process. Whereas the agile methodology is much more aligned with my personality. My partner calls me MacGyver because I'm able to sort of pick out elements to solve a problem that will actually solve that problem and weed out the things that would be nice but are not actually necessary. And so when I speak about it being cheaper or greater value, what I mean is that you're going to get better bang for buck with an agile change approach than you are with a traditional waterfall approach in just every single way.
And I imagine you've had these hallway conversations with like the CFOs in the organization, and they're like, well, why should we invest in change? What's your go-to answer on that?
Well, whatever change you're looking at, if people and what people do is going to affect whether this change is successful or not. If you don't invest in change, you can have the greatest and smoothest and most modern technological solution. But if people don't know how to use it, you're not going to get the output that you want. You're not going to get to the outcomes that you need. And so you need to teach people and you need people to learn, more importantly, to adopt whatever the change is. And if you don't, it's just not going to land. And, there are many statistics that can be shown about adoption being just an absolute key thing if there's anything to do, if this change means that people need to do things differently.
The question I always like to put back at the CFO is what percentage of your benefits are dependent on people using this change or adopting this change?
Yeah,
Getting them to quantify. And they'll go, well, it's
yeah,
100% or it's 90%. And
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
well, you know,
yeah. And then,
and
I was
yeah,
just going to say, then you can actually go, well, how much money have you spent on this system? Okay. And if 100% of people are only going to adopt it at 50%, you've lost that much value in
yeah,
your ROI.
yeah, yeah. But I do think, to your point, we as a profession need to get a lot better at having those ROI conversations, and be on the front foot with it rather than defensive about it. I think
Yeah.
often we
Yeah.
get into that conversation once we're, on the ropes and justify yourself, whereas it probably should be part of an onboarding conversation. where, you get really clear about that.
100%.
Um, you talked before about involving stakeholders early and also the project teams. I'm curious about how does involving stakeholders earlier reduce the downstream cost of change?
So that's a really great question. Um, so with Agile Change, it's about getting to know the environment. So it's like it's like an analogy when you go to a shop. The first thing they're going to ask you is, you want an outfit for to do what? Is it for home? Is it to go to an event, a black tie event? So you've got to know what look you're trying to achieve. And that's the purpose of engaging the stakeholders in order to understand their world and how much of a change this is to them. You really have to engage with them and get a feel for is this something they believe in? Is this something they want? And then you can start working with them to help them in ways and let's say provide an outfit that's going to suit
Yeah.
the event.
Yeah. My head's gone to outfits now, but I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back, like, the outfits of the change practitioner. Um, so let's put the project manager hat back on,
Yep,
and the holy trinity of time, cost, quality.
yep.
Let's pick up on that third one, the quality. So the initial bold statement about agile change resulting in better quality. Tell me what quality change looks like to you.
hmm So quality change is relevant change. Um, Quality change is change that people believe in, and quality change is change that people co-create and co-design with you. Because then it means in the end, people are much more engaged and willing to adopt something that they helped to design. So, and quality change is also about solving the right problem. And I
Mm,
think that agile change methods help organizations to really define what their challenge is and what they need help with. And so
mm,
I think that agile change is much better at doing that because of the
yeah,
way it goes about that in consultation and collaboration with the business and not
yeah,
just with leaders, with people at the
mm,
front line as well. Because that's often a huge mistake that is made in change, that you just engage with leaders and then you invariably get to the end and there's just basic stuff that you haven't spoken to the business about, like, okay, what product is it that we deliver, and what time of year do we deliver that during? And if you don't consult with those teams, you could miss certain timings that are
mm,
absolutely critical to landing a project on time and to budget.
mm,
Um, and similarly, if you miss consulting with frontline teams in terms of how they use a system or what their process is, the solution that you deliver can just be completely inappropriate, even if it's a great
yeah.
technical sort of theoretical solution.
It's just not fit for purpose,
Yeah,
like from their perspective.
yeah.
Yeah. So the concept of quality can be slippery, it can be subjective. If we want to make it more objective, how do you measure whether change has truly landed? Like, so what are the quality metrics for you?
Yeah, so I really like to use an approach called the RIO approach to change. And so it starts from what we were talking about before, Jen, where you actually come up with a solution that's fit for purpose. And then you actually design measures that from the beginning that you identify where are we now, where are we trying to go, and measure progress from now to then throughout the process and not see measurement as something that you do at the end. because then you've missed all your opportunities to adapt and iterate as you go and make sure that the change really lands. So for me, it's about using, I guess, data, whether that comes from, people or from systems, to track measures that you've identified that you can track against outcomes that you're looking for.
You often report into governance forums in your background. I'm
Mhm.
curious, is there, a go-to in terms of what good reporting looks like?
Mhm.
Something that you've learned, something that doesn't work in terms
Yeah.
of governance reporting?
So 100% governance reporting has to be simple on one page
Yeah.
and using visual supports to represent data and to tell the story of the data. Because it's always one thing to go, well, this is what the data says, but there will be key elements in interpreting that data that come out of speaking with the teams and the people that are measured within that data so that you can actually explain things. Because you'll find, let's say, if data's tracking badly and not where we want to go, there might be really important reasons for that that need to be explained. And yeah, so having visuals on one page that are simple, and then having stories that come from, let's say, the coalface to help leaders understand what those tables and charts are expressing.
Yeah. Kind of bring it to life
Yeah,
in the room. What
yeah.
does Brené Brown talk about data is, no, storytelling is data with a soul. That concept, which I think fits. Um, how have you handled the challenge of, and you hinted at it before when you said that if we don't come to an understanding that it is continuous change and thinking about discrete project change,
Mhm.
how have you dealt with the challenge of sustainable change? So 6 to 12 months after go live, how
Yeah.
has that played out for you?
So I think that's one of the themes that comes up most often with leaders is that sustainable change often gets overlooked, and change managers just plan for their project and don't think about broader across the organization or broader across time. And so the way that I have addressed that is to integrate the planning into the project. So, for example, if there is a go live and you have a series of change champions that are helping to train the team and for the team to learn, I have actually created like sort of like heat maps. They're like horizon plans where I've actually looked forward with the teams and worked out with them, okay, so you've completed the training and you've been able to start using the system, and we are with Go Live. But in a year's time, what do you want the team to be doing with this system? And then what planning backwards from that, what is it that we need to do after the go live and between now and then to help the team get there? And then it's also about the measurement of that and the tracking of that over time so that you have goals that you're working for long term and that you have some strategies planned as part of the change program to make sure that that happens once the project is done.
I imagine that leaders would find that incredibly valuable because I don't think that that is often done, right? So I
Yeah.
think, to your point, I think a lot of change practitioners see themselves as accountable for the delivery of their project. Um, Whereas that really, how do we, what does it look like after I've left the organization, um, is a lens that's not looked at. Um, what else do leaders value most about your approach?
Oh, that's a lovely question. So, I mean, I've had great feedback on how I use, I guess, visual communications to communicate with leaders and to provide them with exactly the things that we've mentioned, like that measurement and the focus on ROI from the beginning, and also that focus on the sustainable change planning so that they have confidence that even if I'm not there, I have integrated into the planning, what it looks like for teams to sustain this change. And also, I've had really great feedback over many years of sort of my impact on building change capability within the leadership so that they understand what does good change leadership look like, and what they need to do personally as leaders to sort of develop to not just lead well, but to actually produce leaders as part of their legacy.
Yeah. I love that. And you know what I love the most? And again, this is a call out to the people listening or watching this. Your ability to actually be really clear around what do people value about you is important, right? And you've just given a masterclass in that. So well done, you. While as we sort of head towards the end of this, um, because I think you have comprehensively made the case for agile change is smoother, better value, better quality in there. Tell me, what problems do you enjoy solving, and what does the next chapter look like for you? Where are you heading?
Oh, thank you, Jen. So for me, the next chapter really looks at sort of opportunities where I get to support that continuous transformation that's going on for businesses. So it's not just being a change manager, I would say it's being a transformation leader and partner within a business that really values excellence, and that really values the impact that it can have in the world. So bringing something of quality to people and also to society and broader than that. So yeah, just my passion to work with smart people who are good at what they do and my ability to support them to do that better is, I guess, what I'm best at and what I thrive doing and what I love doing. So I'm looking forward to having an impact in transformation programs and enabling people to become much better at being adaptive and thriving in a world of continuous change, Jen.
What a brilliant desire and objective. I fully support you in that. Let's wrap this up. Let's finish with what's one myth about agile change that you'd love to retire?
Well, I think I referred to it in our chat today, Jen, which is that you don't have to have an agile environment to use agile change methods. And so even going into very traditional organizations that have, sort of strong, rigid processes and structures can gain a lot of value from agile change approaches and methods.
Marvelous. And again, I would fully support that. That's probably not a surprise to the people who are listening at the moment. Deborah Fleischer, thank you so much for your bold assertion and being willing to jump on a podcast and explore those concepts. For the listeners, if that has resonated for you and there's elements there, I will link with Deborah's LinkedIn profile in the notes. I'm sure, Deborah, you'd be happy to catch up with anybody. If anybody's got some of those magical organizations that have the ability for Deborah to come forward and make a difference in continuous change, then I reckon you'd be pretty happy to hear from them as well.
I would,
Deborah,
absolutely.
yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for the opportunity. It's lovely to chat with you, and I'd love to do it again.